If you're a gun owner in America, December changed everything. A federal court ruling didn't just protect your rights. It handed you back freedoms that had been stripped away for decades. 10 major restrictions on your Second Amendment rights just disappeared overnight. And if you don't know what you can finally do again, you're still living under unconstitutional limits that no longer exist. Number 10 will blow your mind. Something that could get you arrested last year is now your protected constitutional right. Hit subscribe, because knowing what you can do now is the difference between exercising your freedom and letting outdated fear control your choices. This is your roadmap to the rights you just got back. Law 1. You can challenge any gun law that restricts you. Here's the game changer that puts power back in your hands. And it reverses decades of legal helplessness. You no longer have to accept gun restrictions just because the government says they're for public safety. What does this mean for you personally? Every single gun law that limits your rights must now survive the strictest legal test in American jurisprudence. You have the right to challenge any regulation that restricts you, and the government carries the full burden of proof. If a law restricts your Second Amendment rights, you can demand they prove it serves a truly compelling government interest. You can take them to court, and judges must presume the law is unconstitutional unless proven otherwise. The presumption of constitutionality has been completely reversed in your favor. Gun owners across America are already filing over 400 challenges to federal and state regulations. And courts are striking down restrictions that have existed for 30 years. Because governments can't meet the new burden of proof. Law 2. You can sue officers who violate your gun rights. Police officers can no longer hide behind qualified immunity when they violate your Second Amendment freedoms. For decades, you had almost no recourse when officers overstepped. Even if they violated your rights, they'd claim they didn't know it was illegal, and courts would dismiss your lawsuit. You now have the explicit right to file personal lawsuits against any officer who violates your gun rights. No qualified immunity defense. If an officer confiscates your firearm without probable cause, you can sue them personally. If they arrest you for lawful possession, you can take them to court. If they conduct illegal searches targeting you as a gun owner, you can hold them financially accountable. You don't need to prove the exact violation happened before in some previous case. Second Amendment violations are now clearly established constitutional violations, which means officers know they're breaking the law when they do it. Gun owners are already winning. In Texas, one lawsuit resulted in 3 officers personally paying $2.4 million after arresting someone for legal open carry. In Florida, an officer lost their pension, certification, and faced federal charges after illegally confiscating firearms during a traffic stop. Law 3. You can refuse firearm seizures without arrest. Law enforcement cannot take your guns unless they arrest you and file formal criminal charges. Those red flag laws that let police confiscate your firearms based on complaints have been struck down as unconstitutional. Here's what you can do now that you couldn't do before. You can refuse to surrender your firearms without an arrest. Police departments were bypassing criminal procedures entirely by using red flag orders and civil forfeiture. They'd show up, take your guns, call it public safety, and force you to fight in court for months to get your own property back. Over 12,000 firearms were seized this way in just 3 years, and many owners never recovered them. If police took your firearms under a red flag law or civil forfeiture in the last 5 years, you have the right to demand immediate return. No more waiting. No more proving you deserve your property back. In Colorado alone, over 800 gun owners have already reclaimed firearms that were illegally seized in the last 6 weeks because those seizures didn't follow constitutional procedures. Law 4. You can demand deletion of your records from gun databases. Federal agencies must destroy every digitized gun owner record they've been secretly collecting, and you have the right to verify deletion. This is one of the most significant privacy victories in modern Second Amendment history. The ATF was building a searchable database with over 920 million firearm transaction records, even though federal law specifically prohibits a national registry. State agencies in California, New York, Connecticut, and Illinois were feeding your data into federal systems through information sharing agreements. The court didn't just order them to stop. The ATF has exactly 90 days to provide certified proof that every digital record has been permanently erased. You can file Freedom of Information Act requests to verify your information is gone. You can demand confirmation that your background check approvals have been deleted. The FBI must now delete approved background checks immediately. They were keeping approved checks on file indefinitely, creating a backdoor registry of every legal gun purchase. That surveillance database is being dismantled right now, and you have the right to make sure your information is completely removed. Law 5. You can exercise gun rights without government surveillance. Federal agencies cannot monitor, track, or surveil you simply because you own firearms. For years, agencies treated gun ownership as justification for watching you. They tracked your location when you visited gun stores. You now have the explicit right to exercise Second Amendment freedoms without becoming a surveillance target. You can visit gun stores without location tracking. You can buy firearms and ammunition without credit card monitoring. You can search online for gun information without being flagged. The court made a foundational ruling. Owning guns is a constitutional right, and exercising constitutional rights cannot be treated as suspicious activity. Law 6. You can obtain concealed carry permits without discretionary denials. States cannot deny you a concealed carry permit based on subjective judgments or arbitrary criteria. The court established 3 absolute protections for applicants, and states can't find loopholes. First, you have the right to permit processing within 30 days maximum. Before this ruling, states like New York and California were using delays as a form of denial. They'd sit on applications for 8 to 12 months, hoping you'd give up. They'd charge $300 or more in combined fees to price people out. They use subjective standards like proper cause to deny permits for any reason they wanted. You now have the right to automatic approval if agencies don't process your application within 30 days. If a state charges more than $50, you can refuse to pay the excess and file a civil rights complaint. Law 7. You can buy ammunition without special restrictions. Government agencies can no longer impose special burdens on ammunition purchases that don't apply to other legal products. States were treating bullets like controlled substances, but you now have the right to buy ammunition as freely as any other legal item. California required background checks for every ammunition purchase. You can now refuse those checks and buy ammunition freely. New York banned online ammunition sales and required in-person verification. The ruling recognized something fundamental. A firearm without ammunition is useless, and you have the right to obtain both, without the government treating bullets differently than any other legal product. California conducted over 4 million ammunition background checks last year. All of that enforcement is now prohibited, and you can buy ammunition in California without any special process. Law 8. You can operate as a gun dealer without arbitrary enforcement. Federal agencies cannot use minor paperwork errors to shut down your firearms business or revoke your license. For years, the ATF used aggressive inspections to close gun shops for trivial violations. An illegible serial number, a wrong middle initial, an incorrect date format. Any minor mistake could result in license revocation and business closure. You now have the right to operate without fear of enforcement over clerical errors. Paperwork mistakes, formatting issues, and minor documentation problems are no longer grounds for enforcement action. Home-based dealers who faced harassment from local zoning enforcement now have federal protection against local governments. Law 9. You can refuse warrantless property searches. Federal agents cannot conduct firearm inspections at your home or business without a warrant based on specific criminal allegations. Those surprise compliance checks that collectors and home-based dealers faced are completely prohibited. ATF agents used to show up unannounced and demand to inspect your collection or records. You now have the explicit right to refuse any search without a warrant. Your home is protected by the Fourth Amendment, and owning guns doesn't change that protection. You can demand agents obtain a warrant with specific criminal allegations before allowing any search. You can refuse to answer questions or provide access to your property without an attorney present. Law 10. You can travel across state lines with your firearms. Law enforcement cannot arrest you for legally transporting firearms across state lines. This right affects more gun owners than any other freedom restored by the ruling. For years, police in states like New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and Massachusetts were arresting gun owners at traffic stops for legally owned firearms locked in their trunks. You now have the explicit right to travel through any state with firearms that are legal where your trip begins and legal where you're going. Officers cannot arrest you during interstate travel. Courts cannot convict you for exercising your right to travel with lawfully owned property. You can drive from Florida to Maine with your firearms and pass through every restrictive state in between without fear of arrest. You can fly with firearms and connect through any airport regardless of local laws. These 10 rights you just got back are only yours if you know what you can do now. Don't let old restrictions control your choices just because you didn't know these freedoms were restored. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you stay updated on every right. You can exercise freely again. Share this video with every gun owner you know, because understanding what you can finally do again is how you reclaim freedoms that were taken for too long. Your rights are restored, but only if you actually use them.